Good evening, everyone. I'm Mr. J Giggles, and I've got here with me Kip, and we are going to be commentating the Super Metroid Reverse Boss Order run.
Indeed, we are, Giggles. Good to have you here on co-commentary. My name is Kip. Hello, everybody. Very happy to be a part of SNES Super Stars. We've got not only a fantastic Super Nintendo game, Super Metroid here, one of the coolest speedrun games around, but we've got a treat for you tonight in terms of the category. Reverse Boss Order is one of the wildest categories that we have in terms of a no major glitches category, and it's one of the four sort of core and most competitive categories that we have throughout the scene. So ShinyZeni is without question the greatest RBO runner of all time. He's going to do some really cool stuff for y'all, and I'm looking forward to watching this.
As am I. And Zeni, I believe, if you include all his meme categories, currently holds the most Super Metroid world records of any runner in
So real quick, I'll ask this, Giggles, you probably know. There's actually a lot of different ways to run reverse boss order. There's several different routes. Do you know if he's going to do the double Norfair or the single Norfair route?
I believe he's going to be doing double Norfair. That's what he's been practicing a lot lately, and it'd be kind of weird for him to switch it up in the 11th hour here. But you're definitely right that there's a lot of different ways to run this category. Honestly, you could watch any two runners, and their route will not be exactly the same by it.
Yeah, so just to give everybody a little bit of information up front, what you're going to see tonight in terms of the routing is not the world record route. However, that doesn't mean that this route is easy. It's not easy by any stretch of the imagination, but it does give a little bit more leeway in terms of one of the big choke points of this run. For anybody who's unfamiliar, reverse boss order is still a no major glitches category. And I know in a lot of other games, reverse boss order means like literally starting with the last boss. With Super Metroid, it is referring to the boss order of the four sort of regular bosses in the game before you get to Mother Brain. So the first boss that Zeni's going to kill is going to be Ridley, and then Dragon, and then Phantoon, and then Kraid. And so if you're familiar with the game, you know that that means that he's going to have to kill Ridley without any kind of heat protection. He won't have any suits in lower Norfair, so he's going to be constantly taking damage, and everything will hit like a truck. And then he also won't have the gravity suit for the Meridia portion, so he's going to have to do a suitless portion of that as well, which changes a lot of things. So this route that he's currently doing tonight, while still not easy at all, allows for a little bit more leeway. Technically, there's a little bit more possibility to pick up a few safeties, and it does have an extra super pack, which even one extra super pack makes Ridley way more manageable, even though it's still crazy hard, but way more manageable when you get to Zeni's level. So you guys are in for a treat. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. In this category, it's kind of broken up into several phases. It's never really delineated this way, but for simplicity, we're going to start out with kind of an item collection phase where he's going to get everything he needs to survive lower Norfair, and then we're going to have the heck runs of going through lower Norfair and trying not to die that whole way through. Then we're going to have kind of the underwater section, which is pretty skill intensive, especially if he's able to get the flash suit before going in there on his way through lower Norfair escape. And then there's kind of just the wrap up at the end, because at that point you have way too much stuff to be worried about Phantoon or Kraid.
Yeah, and to your point, Giggles, like, I spent a few minutes when Zeni asked me to help with the commentary on this. I spent a few minutes trying to figure out exactly how to explain to people that don't play Super Metroid, like, A, how crazy this run is, and B, how insane some of the things that only Zeni does for RBO. And there's just no way for me to explain it. So you're going to see him pick up, like, you know, an item or two, or even do a couple. He's going to attempt to do a couple pieces of tech that basically nobody else in any of their RBO PBs do. And it's an example of his mastery of this category. This category, in relation to the other three kind of core categories of Super Metroid, is super weird. It has like the opportunity to do a lot of stuff that you'd never ever see elsewhere. So I'll let you explain this first one that's going to be coming up here after he gets his first missile pack. Give us a little introduction, Giggles.
For sure. So this first trick is called the Taco Tank. It was a trick found by Takosian. It originally was thought to be TAS only, but it is Zeni has proved otherwise. So what he's going to have to do is a triple frame perfect trick, and this game runs at 60 frames per second. So that means he's got 3 specific things he has to do to the 60th of a second. The first is he has to run for exactly 3 frames. Then he has to do a frame perfect wall jump off this wall, and then he has to extend his hitbox on the frame he would be touching the E-Tank. And how he does that is you'll see him kind of extending his arm forward. Your angle down hitbox is larger than your aim down hitbox. So that gives him the opportunity to touch that E-Tank. You're only touching that energy tank for 1 frame, but you're also touching the tile to the right. And the reason that's relevant is this game runs on a collision oscillator, which means it just bounces back and forth every tile that it considers you in contact with, because it only lets you be in contact with 1 tile at a time. So he's got to do all 3 of those things perfect to the 60th of a second, and then he has to get lucky because it's a 50-50 chance the game tells him he's actually touching the energy tank.
Okay, and if you want the Cliff's Notes version of that, he has to do 3 frame perfect inputs in a row and get a 50-50 coin flip. There you go.
I get excited about Taco Tank, man. It's such a fun trick.
There we go. And, you know, just so everybody knows, obviously this is not a PB attempt. Like, you know, this is just a fun marathon setting. So, you know, if he were trying to get a PB in either a route PB or a straight up PB, he would still grab that tank. But if he didn't get the coin flip within a few tries, he would just reset and start over. But, you know, he wanted to make sure to show that off to everybody. So now we're off to the races, and he's going to do a little bit of kind of what I refer to as sort of normal collection in criteria here, and then in green and pink Brinstar before he heads down to Norfair for the first time. And then we'll talk a little bit when we get there about the differences. But he's doing a very nice wall jump climb here. Some people in our community also like to do the ledge grab climb, but Zeni a little bit more of a traditionalist here. And one other cool thing about this particular like route, if you will, by grabbing this early tank, he also got the beta missiles, which means he's going to have a slightly faster bomb to Rezo fight and be a little bit less at the mercy of BT's drops, because he has 5 extra missiles coming in that you normally wouldn't have.
Yeah, there are several small time saves that kind of add up, in addition to the fact that you don't have to backtrack later in the game to get that E-Tank. There are a few small time saves. BT is the first one, and the next one is going to be actually the door to the Brinstar reserve tank. He's not going to have to go get the supers and then double back. He'll have 10 missiles, so he'll be able to open that door and then go get the supers after to save a few seconds there as well.
Gorgeous fight, very nice. Zeni is also coming to you guys fresh off a championship. We recently had an RBO tournament in the community sponsored by Speedrunners Arena, and Zeni, it was double elimination. Zeni didn't lose a single race, and he was the champion. I got a firsthand view of that because I actually was the person playing him in the championship, and he absolutely wrecked me. So needless to say, Zeni is, in any race that he ever did with RBO, he would be a ginormous favorite over just about anybody. So you guys are going to get to see a lot of really good expert movement here.
Yeah, so they spent a lot of time kind of optimizing a lot of crazy things. In fact, I almost think almost as much as RBO, he's known for a lot of the crazy shine sparks he goes.
We saw a little question in the chat, and we're happy to answer anything that we feel like we can. Plus, I've already seen we have a lot of extremely knowledgeable people in the chat right now from the SM community, so they can help as well. But someone was asking about the arm pumping, moving Samus's cannon up and down. The simple way to explain that would be every time that Samus changes her like arm position or whatever, it moves her forward 1 pixel. And so over the course of a run, especially if you use arm pumping on long straightaways, you can actually save, several seconds. And there's even certain strats in the game where if you pump fast enough in certain spots or like enough times, you can actually like make it under certain gates or enemies or something. So that's the basic premise for why people are doing arm pumping. All right, Giggles, I'm gonna let you. Oh, wait a minute. We don't have to deal with we don't have to do the moon dance here, do we?
No, he only does that in single Norfair. Since he's going to be doing double, he's going to have other power bomb packs he can pick up. This is just a requisite to have enough Moon Dance is just a requisite to have enough energy tanks to survive single Norfair if you don't want to go up right.
There we go. And also, in case we haven't bragged enough on Zeni yet, Zeni not only has the world record in RBO, he also has the world record in this route. And unless I'm misremembering, I think his world record in this route is still better than the second place time. I can't quite remember what his route PB is here. I think it's like a 102 something maybe.
I'll verify real quick.
But the second place time in RBO is a 103.30 something, I believe. So that just goes to show you how experienced he is with this category. The second place time is a single Norfair run. And the third place time, which is actually mine, is also single Norfair. I've got a 104.03, I think. And so his double Norfair run is actually beats my third place time in the category by using a faster route, still by a couple minutes. So he is very, very good. And there's a few pieces of tech that I mentioned earlier that only he does that actually saves large chunks of time in certain areas. So we'll try to point them out when we get there.
And to your question, it is sub 103. I don't know the exact time, which is faster than the second place time, which is a 103.30.
This part of the run is actually new to double Norfair. Zeni basically, he's the only person I've seen do it, and I started doing it when I was still running double Norfair. Most of the time, people do not go and get that power bomb pack before going to Norfair for the first time, but he does, and what that's going to allow him to do later is actually, instead of killing Crocomire during the first loop of Norfair, he's going to kill Crocomire during the second one because he'll already have a power bomb pack. And that actually cuts down a little bit on the routing, which we'll point out later.
So we are slowly making our way up to the first hack runs, which are going to be going through a superheated area with no heat protection. Since he isn't going to kill Kraid, he's not going to have the Varia suit, so he's going to be taking constant damage while he's in these heated areas. The movement in these areas is pretty particular because if you're not careful and you don't do everything you need to do, it could kind of be lights out in any one of these runs, whether it be here in the early game or once we actually get to the lower Norfair segment as well. So getting the taco tank early is actually going to make these a lot safer because if you don't go for taco tank, you're usually only going to have 2 energy tanks at this point, which is a lot tighter. With that third energy tank, he's going to have a lot more leeway to play with.
Well, here's the thing. You are correct, Giggles, but in terms of if he was going for a PB in this category, in this route, the main effect that getting that taco tank has for him is that normally, if you only have 2 tanks here, you are forced to fill that reserve tank up to full, so people have to stop and farm along the way. In this case, he's not forced to do that. He's still going to collect a little bit of these drops on the way, but since he's got that extra tank already, he can basically avoid having to go up to the bugs and spend, 20, 30 seconds or whatever trying to get his reserves filled. So this is actually a good situation for him in terms of time. And the cool part is he does have at least a little bit of those reserves, which he can pause and then use if he gets in trouble here. But you not only need enough health to get through this first hell run, you need enough health also when you get to Bubble Mountain to make it up to farm the bugs before Speedway, which that's actually where most people lose their runs if they mess up this portion. So luckily 81 is a very good, especially 101 is a really, really nice amount. So he should be perfectly fine heading in here, and there shouldn't be any problem getting up to the bugs. Yeah, like if he had fallen right there and a regular run, that could have been instant death. Ooh, he got very bad drops. I don't want to go too deep here on the mechanics, but part of the reason that he was beeping but still didn't get enough health to not trigger that reserve is because if you're under 30 health, you're supposed to get all energy drops, but unfortunately, since he had some energy in that reserve tank, the game doesn't read you as being under 30 in the same capacity, so he actually got a bad drop from that pack of bugs, and it included a bunch of ammo.
Well, and that's actually a really good point to bring up, because that's going to be relevant once we get into Ridley. The amount of health he has left at the end of the fight is going to be very, very important. And if he has energy left in his reserves after the fight is over, that's going to determine if he gets health bombed. And so understanding that the 30 health threshold is there is going to be very, very important once we get there.
Yeah, and to your point, getting health bombed after Ridley for a situation like this where the time is not, super relevant, obviously just completing the run is the most important thing. But if you're going for a PB, getting health bombed by Ridley is a nightmare because I guess I won't explain every tiny detail, but you need to have a certain amount of missiles and supers and power bombs when you are exiting Lower Norfair to get a crystal flash to make it out. And if you don't get any drops, then it takes even longer to farm those back along the way. So it's a big time loss when that happens to you.
And this room here, the double chamber, is another good spot where getting the taco tank is going to save him a little bit of time. Having that third energy tank prevents him from needing to refill to make it back out. So he's going to save time by not having to pause and activate that like you would normally have to with two tanks just to survive.
One cool thing that y'all just saw, it's really strange to try to explain, but in Super Metroid, the game, there's like a chart that can explain it better than I can, but basically if you have Speed Booster and you have high jump boots, you actually don't always jump consistently the same height each time. It actually depends on how much you've held down dash. So technically you can hold dash for just a second and then jump higher, then sometimes getting more momentum because it'll actually pull your height back down a little bit. So that jump that he made to get out of double chamber was actually a very specific place to jump that allows you to get the right amount of speed booster speed without limiting your height, so you can make that ledge.
Yeah, for those who remember middle school math, the chart that Kip is referring to shows that your jump height with Speed Booster is actually a piecewise function. So have fun with that.
So as I pointed out earlier, one of the cool things about the way Zeni updated this route, I really am a big fan of it, is normally in the double Norfair route, traditionally people would go to Crocomire right now, immediately after getting the wave beam. Instead, Zeni is going to leave, and he can do that because he's already got that power bomb pack from the Alpha power bomb location. So that's going to allow him to get all the rest of the item collection that he needs back here in Retro Brinstar and Pink Brinstar. And so basically, this is going to clean up some of the routing. He's actually going to take a counterclockwise. If you can imagine the map for a minute, we're actually going to exit when we're done in the room he just left. So we're going to take a counterclockwise run through all this section, whereas in the past, people would take a clockwise run.
And a quick explanation of this trick, because it's always fun to talk about. This is a trick called backdoor spore spawn. This allows you to get the super missiles that are behind the first, well, technically second mini boss without having to fight him. There's a super missile block that can only be hit backwards from kind of specific positioning, and that's why you saw him kind of lining up in a pretty specific spot before he jumped and shot that super so that he could hit that block, and that skips an entire boss fight and allows him to get 5 extra supers for the Norfair run.
So it's kind of ironic because I've done a lot of RBO, and so I feel like I can at least speak to the experience a good bit. All I can tell you is if you're interested in Super Metroid and you eventually play enough to where you're interested in trying to do some of the more aggressive RBO routes, this portion of the run actually ends up being the most annoying because you have to spend all this time collecting all of these items that are going to give you the ability to get through Lower Norfair when you finally get there. And then when you get in Lower Norfair, if you make like literally one mistake, you're probably going to lose your entire run. So it's like, as soon as you lose your run, you got to start over and you're thinking about all these items and fanfares you have to sit through again just to get a shot at getting down into Lower Norfair. So this part is pretty cozy. There's not really any danger going on. But all of the items that we're currently picking up are necessary for us to finish the Lower Norfair section with speed, that is. You can actually do low percent RBO. It's not the same as low percent regular Super Metroid, but it is significantly slower. So this is basically sort of the optimal amount to get to still be able to move fast throughout the sections.
Well, and that kind of brings me to the next point I wanted to bring up is Zeni, even in a marathon setting like this, elected not to get the Waterway E-Tank, which would have given him an extra 100 energy going into Lower Norfair and made it a little bit safer. But skipping that in a marathon setting is gutsy, but Zeni definitely has the skill to pull it off. He hasn't been having any issue doing 6-tank lava dive.
Yeah, there's no way I would ever consider doing this in a marathon setting, but Zeni is, as I mentioned before, and I am not being hyperbolic here, he's so experienced in what this is and has done it so many times at such a high level, I'm confident that he'll be fine. So this is one of the cool parts about doing the counterclockwise method. You get a chance to do actually 2 extra moonfalls in this climb room, which you would normally not be able to do. Normally you would go up this room, or at least partially up this room, if you went the other way. So here we're collecting the Criteria Super Missiles, which require the speed booster. And then he's going to come out at the top of the climb room again, and he's going to get to do a 3rd moonfall in the room. And then from there, we'll return to Retro Brent Star, collect a few more items, and go from there.
Yeah, the super pack he just got is the one super pack that you can't get doing a single Norfair run. That really, it's not an exaggeration to talk about how much faster it makes the Ridley fight and how much safer it makes the Ridley fight, because supers actually do double damage to Ridley. So having that extra super pack is going to very, very much speed up the Lower Norfair section to make it safer, even without the extra energy tank.
Yep, and that's a great point, Giggles. That's a huge difference. And in the meantime, what you guys saw there while Giggles was explaining that was Zeni basically set up a short charge to be able to shine spark through the pit room, which is a nasty strat. But pay attention here. This is one of my favorite strats of this run. He's going to use this blue suit speed keep to actually kill those 2 hoppers. Gorgeous. That's a very neat strat.
I wasn't exaggerating when I was talking about the shine sparks that Zeni likes to go.
All right, here comes my favorite. Let's see if he can pull off Blockbuster. Who's ready to rent some video games in the 90s? Oh, barely missed it. Basically, that strat right there is very difficult. It's actually a lot more difficult, I think, than it looks. What he was trying to do was shoot that door open and then maintain his run speed, his blue suit or whatever. Not blue suit, but his speed echoes, and then do a mock ball through the door to break those blocks so he wouldn't have to wait on the bombs. So it's a really cool strat, but I'm telling you, it's a lot harder than people think. Plus, I just love the name because I used to rent video games from Blockbuster like all the time. In fact, I rented Super Metroid from Blockbuster, so there you go.
Rest in peace, Blockbuster Video.
And oh, I'm sorry, Giggles. I was just going to point out real quick. This is why we call it double Norfair, right? Here we go again to North.
Yeah, and this actually is going back to the route deviation of picking up the power bombs from the Alpha Power Bomb location rather than going down to Croc early. Is he's getting ready to pick up his Ice Beam and go do Crocomire now. I believe it saves a little bit of time. I'm not sure the exact amount, but it does save a little bit of time over the old route, and it kind of smooths out the trip back to Lower Norfair because you don't have to do as much backtracking through the second trip. You actually have a reason to go that direction since you're already right there under Croc.
Yeah, this is a really huge change. In fact, I'm going to try to do my best to explain this. This phenomenon is actually very interesting. When you're taking heat damage without your Vario or Gravity suit, if you get the speed booster up to where you have speed echoes, you can actually lose those echoes if you hold dash the whole time, depending on how the heat is damaging you. It's really hard to explain. So here what's going to happen is as soon as he gets the echoes, he's going to release dash right here. So he is no longer holding dash here, and since he's no longer holding it, the game will not allow him to lose those echoes. But if you're on a PB attempt and you just accidentally barely press the button, more than likely you're going to lose those speed echoes and you're actually going to die. Like, you can lose the whole run in that room. So nice double frame, or I guess he had a frame perfect super there to get Croc to go back even further before stopping. That was very nice.
Yeah. Back to your point about the speed echoes and letting go of dash, that's actually a fairly recent, well, it's an old discovery, but it's a fairly recent rediscovery, and it's actually the entire reason this route is viable. Being able to get to Croc through the traditional access point below speed without having to worry about losing your speed echoes was a big hiccup to being able to do this. So since we now know that releasing dash is all you have to do, that's what makes this definitely doable.
Yeah, good point. And we also just witnessed what was called a wraparound shot there. That's another, I could be wrong. I think Zeni might have discovered that particular one. Like, normally the traditional way to get that wraparound at like 100% is to shoot from the acid. But you can actually shoot it from up there. He was the one that showed me that. I don't know who exactly found it. But anyway, the door to the left is already open, so he's not going to have to shoot it. And as you can see, he just shine sparks right on through.
Yeah, and I'm not sure the exact mechanics behind wraparound shots. It's something to do with movement in some direction when you release a charge shot, and it kind of hits the back pixel of the door because both ends are connected. Something. And Zeni is telling us that Dingus is the one who told him about the above acid.
I like that farm there. He wants to make sure he's full on power bombs before he heads to Lower Norfair, and this is literally the last item he's going to pick up before heading to Lower Norfair. He's only going to get one other chance to farm power bombs guaranteed from those. I don't know. I don't know if those are Sovas, depending on what color they are. I just call them fuzzy butts, but they have like a 99.6% chance to drop power bombs if you're not full on power bombs. So he's probably going to farm a few of these on the way up too. And then he's going to get full health before and full supers before he heads up to do his lava dive. I would expect him to save up here too. I think it would be prudent to do so in a marathon setting.
Yeah, you were actually the Sovas or Novas or the little fire guys. The blue ones that wrap to the walls there are called Violas, and the red ones that fly around are called multi.
Oh, that's right. I don't even have the right creature. See, he's not going to save. He's going to do the lava dive without it. So bless RNG, dude. I totally believe that he'll be fine. And I think he even has some backup saves in place, so it should be fine. But yeah, this is the part of the run from basically from this room forward. Like once he exits this energy room right here, from this point forward, any mistake, and I'm not exaggerating, like any mistake, even a small one, will most likely mean the death of your run. And that's why running this category is so absolutely brutal when you're trying to pursue one of the top times in the category. It's incredibly discouraging. So anyway, let's see him do it.
This lava dive setup is pretty specific. He's going to try and jump to get the top Namahe to fire or start its firing animation, so he doesn't have to pause when he jumps.
And oh, unfortunately, he missed the wall jump there. So I think he's going to use one of his backup saves. And what I was referring to here is like, you know, basically, literally, I'm not exaggerating. He just accidentally barely messed up one button input. And that's, you know, in a PB attempt scenario, that's 29 minutes down the drain. And every room, I'm not exaggerating, every single room that he enters for like the next 8 to 10 minutes is exactly like that. So what we're going to see here is, I think he's searching for his backup save. Part of the reason that his jump right there was so difficult was because it only saves a couple seconds, but you know, he's optimized everything. Basically, what you can do there is you can actually empty your reserve so that you don't actually pause the game in the middle of that last jump. And then it eats a couple more seconds, but it stops you from having like a break in the action. And sometimes when the action comes back very quickly and you got to do like a very quick input, it makes it more difficult. So anyway, we'll try it again here.
And kind of a second valuable thing to pausing to activate your reserves is the time that your screen is frozen while your reserves are activating, you're actually still losing heat damage, or it's losing health to heat damage. So if you don't pause, you're actually going to lose, I think it's like 27 question mark energy.
Yeah, that's something like that. Recharge. Yeah, that's actually a really excellent point, Giggles. That is exactly what you're talking about right there is actually paramount to understand when you're fighting Ridley as well, because management of your reserve tank can be the difference between getting health bombed and not, or even dying and not. There we go. That room right there with the grapple is deceptively tricky. It is not an easy room, and it's a little bit variable. Okay, in my opinion, I think he needs to press start this time because he ran into that viola. Maybe he's still got enough leeway, but taking just even a few extra damage there can be the difference between succeeding and not. Hopefully he'll have enough. I don't think he's going to get there. Oh, so close. If he had paused there and released his reserve, he would have saved that 27 energy, and he actually would have had the ability to get that in time. But if he hadn't run into the viola, he also would have had it. So that just, I mean, again, I'm going to keep saying this. The margins for this category, like I'm telling you, the margins for this category when you're running at this level are exceptionally thin, like in a way that you don't see in other Super Metroid categories. Like in almost every other category, you make a mistake and you lose time. In this category, you make a mistake, it's over. Like the whole run is over. So let's see if we can get it. Third tries the charm, I believe. Let's go, baby.
So to kind of explain why it looked like he got it but didn't there, the trick he's trying to do is built into the game. It's called a crystal flash. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but basically you can restore health at the cost of ammo. All you have to do is drop a power bomb, hold some specific inputs, and after the power bomb goes off, it will actually restore your health at, I believe it's 50 health per frame, but there is a charge up time, and a crystal flash can only be activated at under 50 energy. So depending on how much health he has when he starts it, the heat damage can make it something that can or cannot happen. In this case, he had just enough to get it going, and the time before, his health was just low enough that he hit 0 right before the health actually started recovering.
All right, we got it this time, and he's gonna insert a safety save here. The scary thing about this safety save is that he won't have another chance to save for safety until right before Ridley, and there are tons of things that he still has to do correctly to even make it to the point that he can get that save. Like, there are even scenarios where he can make it to the save, but if he messes up even getting there and doesn't have the right amount in his reserve tank or the right amount of ammo or something, it's basically already GG anyway. So hopefully we A, get some good execution, and B, get some good drops here.
So a quick explanation of the trick he just did. It's called the green gate glitch. There's a glitch in the game that, not really a glitch, more an exploit, that allows us to hit that gate backwards. Normally you're supposed to have to hit it from the left side and access this next mini boss, Golden Chorizo, from the other side of the room. But what he did, was he, in motion, fired the super, and the super doesn't actually exist on every frame. So if you shoot it while you're in motion, its initial frame of existence is actually further out from your body, because the game kind of adjusts the angle and direction of your shots based on your physical momentum. So if you're in motion, then they'll move just as fast to compensate.
I love how, like, every 10 rooms we have to give some, like, 2-minute explanation for some kind of trick, because
Yes.
Super Metroid just has all this, like, insane depth with the tech. And even though we're trying to explain it to the best of our ability, I will tell you that you don't have to memorize all this stuff to play the game. The main thing in terms of speedrunning the game is just know what it feels like and know how to make it work. Clearly, having the background knowledge for why it works is helpful, but it's not mandatory. So here, he's going to use a combination of charge shots and super missiles to kill GT. Here's the last shot, and he's going to collect. He had a pretty nice amount of drops there. Hopefully he'll get some more supers and power bombs here. All right, he got a few. I think he's in pretty good shape ammo-wise. So what we are going to see him do, though, is he's going to try to farm every single one of these super missiles from these rippers in the next room. He's also getting ready. You notice he took off Ice Beam and Spazer. That is prep in advance for when he fights Ridley. He's going to use some X-Factor strats, which require only the Wave Beam to be equipped. But he's going to try to farm every one of these rippers to get supers. Perfectly done. Then, tell you what, instead of explaining this, I actually think this portion of the run would be better if we didn't say anything. So how about this? You guys just enjoy. This is insane.
Those rooms are always monka ass.
Exactly, and this is the part where, you know, especially the first time people watch, usually you're at even less energy than this when you get to this energy tank, and it's all calculated, but most people, you know, don't know that immediately. Here, he's got to take damage. He used, like, if you fall on those spikes down there, you're going to take 60 damage, which will, in many cases, be very bad for your farm when you get ready to fight Ridley. So what he did to avoid running into those spikes is he actually purposefully took damage from the Fire Flea, which I believe does maybe 5 damage or less. It's single digits.
Yeah, Firefly is 4 damage with no.
So at this point, if he runs into anything, more than likely, that's going to be the end of the run. So he's got to make sure that he's screw attacking into things, and then on top of that, he's got to have clean execution on his farming, including this metal pirate room. Now, what he would prefer here, he's pretty healthy right now on his energy. Just take my word for it. At this juncture, he's pretty good on energy. He would prefer for them to drop more supers. That was a great set of drops right there.
Yeah.
The reason he would prefer more supers so that he can... Ooh, gorgeous, man.
Wow,
he got a ton of supers.
For
Nice.
that second one.
Yeah, and he should have enough health here to still be okay, but this means he's going to have to wait a lot less in this farm room when getting ready for the Ridley fight. Now, in a marathon setting, it's not as big of a deal, but in a PB attempt, that would be like maybe a 1 in 10 type of scenario where you get really lucky and you want to push even faster to get ready for Ridley. So
I don't think I've ever seen 8 supers in the metal pirate room in an RBO run. What even is this RNG?
No, that right there was what I would call the low percent dream. So Zeni's getting ready to do his last crystal flash prior to Ridley. He's in a bit of a weird spot right here. He got a little bit low, but he should be fine now. I kind of don't want to talk over the Ridley fight because I believe the Ridley fight is also another thing that's better to be enjoyed. So just give a little quick explanation for what we're going to see, Giggles, and then we'll let the viewers enjoy it.
For sure. So Zeni is actually going to do a pretty specific setup to start and activate a special beam attack called X Factor, and that uses one of his power bombs to hit him with 4 particles that move in an X pattern. He's going to do that, and then he's going to kind of pump him full of supers, and then he's going to set up a second X Factor, pump him full of some more supers, and while he's pumping him full of supers, he's going to turn his ice and spazer back on, and then he's going to do a couple shots to finish him off.
He got the good RNG. Gorgeous fight. Absolutely beautiful. Masterful job. Let me tell you, that was fantastic. He's not going to get health bombed. He's not even going to have to trigger his reserve. He's going to have that reserve as an extra safety on the way out. He's going to pick up the Ridley energy tank. And all he's got to care about now, pay close attention to his ammo because he's not in the clear by any stretch of the imagination yet. He needs to get to, at minimum, 10 supers, which he's at 3 now. He also is going to need, I believe, at the bare minimum, 12, or maybe it's 13 power bombs, actually, because he's going to need to be able to crystal flash with the power bombs, but he's also going to need to drop at least 1 in the wasteland room. So what I think we might see him do here is actually exit and pick up the power bombs a shame to get to that 13 count.
Yeah, that's definitely the best way to go when you're this low on power bombs. It's a little bit slower, but having the extra safety of the reserve is not going to make it any more dangerous, and it's going to be, it's going to give him the ammo he needs. I'm pretty sure it is 12 because he needs 11 for the crystal flash, 1 for the wasteland, and then before he actually needs another one, he will have the ability to farm the seahorses.
I can't believe he just did the deep boost right there. Unbelievable. But as you can see, he got to 11 power bombs very quickly. He had very good RNG from the bugs on the way out and also in the powerhouse room. Normally, if you don't have good drops there, you would have to farm those metal pirates. But that was very, very nice. So he's gonna, what I assume he's gonna do is he's probably gonna let his reserve tank trigger. Oh, God. Okay, he's good. Whew. He actually needs to go down 5 more health.
Giving me a heart attack, man. I saw him in that position with the key.
He's good. He's going to crystal flash, and then maybe he'll save. He doesn't really have to. I know what I'm about to say is going to sound like I'm posturing, but this part from here to the end of Lower Norfair is not really that crazy. It probably looks worse than it is in terms of execution-wise. And for someone of his caliber, I don't expect us to run into any issues. So, in fact, I would assume that by the time he reaches Bubble Mountain, he'll still have multiple energy tanks of energy left. So, okay, Giggles, I'll let you take it away on this one.
Yeah, so Zeni is setting up a short charge here, and he's going to try and do something called a spike suit. What that is if you... Oh, we got the... It looks like he's going to go try it again. So the way this works is he's going to try and take damage while in Morph Ball with Speed Booster. And if he does it successfully, and then I believe it's 10 frames later, there it is, hits the jump button, that allows him to store a Shine Spark. And Zeni, this is actually one of the tricks that Zeni is very well known for. In fact, this one's named after him. This is the Zeni Spark he's trying to set up. He's going to be very careful with his movements here, and he has to avoid inputs that would otherwise activate a Shine Spark so that he can use it later in the run. There's a very specific place he's going to use it that saves about a minute if he can keep it that whole length.
Yeah, and real quick, keep in mind, he took about 180 damage extra trying to set up that thing because he actually ran into the spikes 3 times. And everything Giggles just explained is correct. The only thing I can add is when he says hold on to that Shine Spark until a certain place in Meridia, it sounds pretty simple. I promise you, it is insanely hard to do. The amount of deliberate inputs you have to use in very specific places to change what you would naturally do to play this game is like really intense during this section, because if he presses the wrong button or does the wrong input sequence for the next maybe 3 or 4 minutes, he's going to lose the spark and therefore lose, you know, a minute of potential time save. So this part is actually way harder than it probably looks like.
Right, and even this farm section, he has to be very, very careful, because if you do a standstill jump, you won't do a spin jump like he's doing activating screw attack. You'll actually do a straight jump. And a straight jump is one of the ways you can activate a Shine Spark. So he has to be very specific to do spin jumps here, or else he'll blow that Shine Spark.
Unless I'm mistaken, I don't think you can see. Can you see the spike suit? I don't think you can. The flashing that we saw there was him taking heat damage, but the spike suit that he currently has is not something you can see. But if you miss it, you'll know it. So let's just put it this way: he wants to use that spike suit to flash across the Batwoon energy tank room after you kill Batwoon. If you guys see him do any kind of Shine Spark before that, that was a mistake. And not what he intended to do. So to answer somebody's question from earlier, you're about to see why he didn't want to break the tube early. It's this exactly right here.
Even that morph is specific to not using the Shine Spark, because if he had just aimed up, he could have activated it.
Ooh, he just barely, I think, from what I can tell, from what I saw, I think he just barely didn't press down in time to get that down grab. This is actually a pretty tricky portion of the Suitless Meridia part because of the way that fish oscillates, but there we go.
He's even going to have to do this grapple room very, very differently. He has to morph between the grapples, or else he can activate the Shine.
Man, that was a gorgeous Mount Everest right there. He's probably hoping to get a power bomb or two from these crabs. Okay, maybe he doesn't care about it as much, but he does need to have you know, some power bombs moving forward too, because he's gonna here in a little bit have to use a crystal flash when he fights Dragon. We'll try to explain that when we get there, but yeah, enjoy the grapple jumps, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so far we are still, we still have that spike suit intact. Gonna use an ice clip strat right here to help get us through to the Botwoon fight. Botwoon can be a huge troll. He has 4 patterns in terms of how he comes out of the first hole. Hopefully he does not get the top pattern. It is super troll, especially in this category. All right, good. We got a good pattern. Probably going to be able to one round this. Ooh, gorgeous fight.
Yeah, and he has to do that fight very specifically as well to avoid activating the Shine Spark. That's why he kind of jumped up and just bodied.
Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Zeni Spark.
Got him. And ladies and gentlemen, that allows Zeni to bypass one of the slowest rooms in this entire run. And it means that he does not have to, he didn't get the energy tank at Botwoon there, which is traditionally the last energy tank that people get. And that actually is kind of a neat thing because you actually want to be pretty low on health when you enter Dragon's room, which we'll try to explain in a minute. This Dragon fight, like the Ridley fight is crazy and like exciting, but the Dragon fight and how you have to get out of the room and then how you have to get out of the next room is really probably the craziest thing about this whole entire category. So I don't even know how to do it. Go ahead, Giggles. Yeah.
So Zeni is he's gonna go ahead and break these turrets so that he doesn't get sniped, but he's gonna have to lower his health below 50 so he can activate another Crystal Flash. There's kind of a neat trick with this game where if you activate or if you have something that interrupts your momentum, you can get a blue suit if you're shine sparking through something. There are only a few examples, one of which is Dragon grabbing you. So he's gonna have to set up a spike suit using Crystal Flash by getting grabbed by Dragon in the middle of his Crystal Flash. Then he's going to have to use that spike suit to get a blue suit so that he can get out of Dragon's room with a grapple jump and shine spark back up the Precious room. That's the only way he can get out because he didn't pick up X-Ray. So here you're going to see he's going to activate his Shine Spark after he gets gooed and grabbed, and he's going to kill her with a grapple, and then he will have a blue suit. He won't actually be blue because he's underwater, but you can see the speed echoes as he moves, and that was a textbook.
Yeah, that was super, super good fight.
I guess a brief explanation of the difference between a blue suit and a spike suit. A blue suit allows you to store a shine spark just like a spike suit does. The difference is you aren't as restricted in your inputs because the blue suit only becomes a potential shine spark if you press down to activate it. So right now he's not worried about accidentally losing a shine spark because he has a blue suit. If he had a spike suit, then he would have to worry about it.
Yeah, and there's one of the big tricks to finish this run. He doesn't want to activate his Shine Spark to get out of that room. He wants to use a grapple jump. He wants to use the Shine Spark there because otherwise you wouldn't be able to get out of that room with our current item set because of the way the water works. So basically, if he can finish this room, I know it might not seem like it, but this room is actually still very dangerous. If you fall the wrong way and get stuck in the sand, you can actually die. But once you get past that room, the rest of the run is basically just execution for time. There's nothing super dangerous left unless you count like, Mother Brain, Suitless, and take like a really bad catch up or something. But otherwise, we're just going to do some more Suitless chilling here. Go grab our plasma suit and then use the Forgotten Highway to get to the wrecked ship.
I want a plasma suit.
Oh yeah, me too. I don't know why he wants to pick up the plasma suit because he already has the charge suit. But unfortunately in this route he can't get the Varia beam or the gravity beam. So I don't know. RBO's weird.
The grapple suit I think is the most important part of this round. Makes you like Spider-Woman. Oh, spoilers, Samus is a girl.
All right, so we're heading up here to the plasma room. One cool thing that you don't see in most categories is usually you do not have the screw attack in this room. And so you have to wait until you collect plasma to actually kill those pirates. But in this particular category, since you've already done Lower Norfair, you get to utilize that screw attack and your newly acquired space jump to do some cool strats to save some time in this particular room. He actually killed 4 out of the 6 pirates with the screw attack there. Very cool.
Well, and getting that jump to kill the first 3 in a one fell swoop is actually really precise. So that was impressive. I was pretty excited.
I'm gonna hardcore Super Metroid speedrunner nerd out for just a minute. I think that room just a second ago where he fell down really fast with the pancakes in there is my favorite room that he's done in this whole run, because he did something incredibly sneaky. He fell down just far enough to get the camera to move and then jumped back up just barely to make it move again, so that he had one of the smallest door transitions possible in that room, which is a really neat frame saver. Basically, in this game, every time you enter a door, depending on where the camera is, the camera might have to adjust the room back to the middle to fix the door. And that can actually, over the course of a run in any category, add up to a lot of time that people don't realize when they first play this game. So that was like, even though it didn't look like it, that was basically like extremely advanced tech, even though it only saved a little bit of time.
Yeah, and that's kind of an interesting thing. I can't remember who told me this, but one of the things that I heard a runner in the community tell me was that you can kind of tell the experience of a runner by how many door transitions they get perfect or close to perfect. Because a lot of earlier runners, I know I didn't even think about it when I first started running this game, but a lot of earlier runners really don't worry about the door transitions because they're too worried about their physical movement. Once you start worrying about the door transitions, it kind of clicks something else in the speedrunning brain.
Oh, just barely missed another super swag strat there. That's another Zeni special where he gets a short charge and then shine sparks through this room, but he missed that by like probably single digit frames. He's using a regular controller in terms of like he doesn't have any kind of special controller. He's either using a Super Famicom or a Super Nintendo. I think he's Famicom if I recall.
I'm pretty sure he has a Super Nintendo because I'm fairly certain.
I don't think he uses the concave buttons, does he?
No, he has oh, you mean the controller? I think it's a Super Famicom controller, yeah.
Yeah.
But I thought you meant like the actual console. Actually, I think he runs on a SNES Mini.
Oh yeah, he uses the SNES Mini controllers. Yeah, so basically, I mean, it's the same thing. He doesn't have any extra buttons or anything. But hey, he got a fast on this round here, and looks like he's gonna get, holy cow, a fast in RBO. And the cool part about it is in this category, since you already have plasma, wave, and ice, and that charge shot does 900 damage, you only have to hit Fantoon with 7 missiles total and 2 charge shots. So man, that was nice. Excellent job.
Yeah, and getting a fast in RBO is really exciting because Fantoon in most other categories is the heaviest source of RNG, especially for like any percent and 100%, because it can be anywhere from, you can lose up to, I think it's 25 seconds based on his patterns if you get a slow versus a fast. In this run, it's near the end of the run, so if your run hinges on Fantoon RNG, getting a fast this late in the run is actually pretty exciting.
Yeah, and on top of that, like, Zeni would be able to tell you better than me, but if you're running RBO with this item set, you're probably, even as good as he is, you're probably completing 5% or less of your runs. So the times that you actually do make it to Fantoon are very rare. And then on top of that, it's like, you could lose a bunch of time, but it's not really something you think about in this category just because you're worried about all the other stuff.
A couple minor things that just happened there. Really one minor thing, or 2 minor things. One, Zeni did not forget to go back to Kraid, which is very good. Kraid skipped. And 2, he remembered to open the door. That's going to save him a little bit of time on the way back up because he doesn't have to drop the power bomb on his way up. Oh, Screwfall! I love Screwfall.
Yeah, we gotta shout out the Screwfall, the best moonfall in the game.
But that's going to save him time because he doesn't have to wait on the power bomb lag. By getting on the elevator as soon as the power bomb opened the door, he saved himself a little bit of time there.
There is an SM Discord. I guess this would be a good time to say that while Reverse Boss Order is super fun to watch and very cool, and I would highly recommend anybody that runs the game to eventually give it a shot, there are other categories that make your transition into the game a lot easier and better. And we have a lot of really nice people in the community, very helpful. So please join our Discord. Come in, ask as many questions as you like. We're happy to help. And this game is a ton of fun. One of those games that the skill ceiling of this game is so high that you could literally play this game for years and years and years and still have a long way to go. So it's definitely a cool game to invest your time into.
Well, and there's actually, speaking of people being very helpful, Kip, you actually hosted a masterclass on this game.
Are you talking about Strat Chat?
Yes.
Yeah, we've got, several things that exist out there. I'm not the only person that's done. I did like a little series called Strat Chat where we interviewed, famous Super Metroid runners, and then we would spend like an hour going over certain strats or certain categories. But Zeni has also got his own kind of series where he's gone through the entire RBO run. He's talked about any percent, some other categories, and there's other people out there that have tons of videos too. Like we just have a community who. The community is very open and helpful. So anybody who's interested in getting started, please come out here and give it a go. Yeah, Astra put famous in quotations. We didn't every single time we interviewed somebody, they weren't famous. In fact, we actually, due to a scheduling conflict with a famous runner, had to interview Astra one time. But other than him, I think everybody else was relatively famous.
I mean, in all fairness, Azur's only not famous because he changed his name, and not everybody knows who Azur.
Yeah, technically, Azur is not even on Strat Chat. Anyway, so right here, Zeni is heading back to the surface through the red tower. You can actually in RBO go back through green Brinstar. This way is definitely faster if you do all the strats correctly. Personally, I prefer to go the other way because even though it's slightly slower, it's actually faster for me because I mess up a lot of the strats in these rooms. And I just kind of like hearing the green Brinstar music again, to be honest. But yeah, this is, we're getting very close here, and it's hard for me to ballpark exactly what his end time is going to be, but I would assume that it's going to be probably like a high 108, maybe 109. And even with the resets and all that jazz and the deaths, I think he died twice, this would still be easily a top 10 all-time RBO time. So that just goes to show you how good a lot of these the strats and execution are for this run for Zeni here.
I think it's usually 8.5 to 9 minutes, depending on how well you do from G4. So he should be finishing with a 110 or a mid 110.
Yeah, it is actually. This is kind of where we get to nerd out a little bit on the Super Metroid end of it and say that Torian in this category is actually different than most of the other categories due to the fact that you do not have the suits. And what I mean by that is Gravity Suit allows you to run through the lava, and so there are a lot of strats in some of these Metroid rooms where you run through the lava, but since you can't maintain your momentum without it, he's actually going to have to move a little bit slower and do something different in these particular Metroid rooms that he normally would not do in any other category.
Then he's showing off his swag bum jumping a bit.
So this room in particular is one of the biggest ones. That was really nice. That strat is harder than it looks. So that is basically a strat that you wouldn't be able to, or I guess you probably wouldn't go for in some categories without space jump, but it makes things a lot better in RBO. So that was excellently done. And because you have a bunch of extra supers in this category that you don't have in any percent, for example, it allows for a little bit more aggressive supering of the Metroids in the third and fourth room. So that was gorgeous.
That fourth Metroid room was actually really sick. He fired a plasma shot to freeze the Metroid and killed it with a super before it cleared the door, so he opened it with the same shot. I think he, correct me if I'm wrong, Zay, I'm pretty sure that he was the one who found that and just kind of got it to where he could do it.
All right, we got a good start to the baby skip. I'd say in this case, he would execute and deliver on this. Like, once he makes the first jump, I'd say he's at like 95 to 98% to complete it. And as we saw there, he was able to deliver the goods. And so now we got Mother Brain. Now this part, here's where, like in most other categories, you're obviously worried about time, but death is not typically a huge concern if you have this many energy tanks. By the way, he did a nice down back Zeb skip there, which is really difficult to explain. I'll let Giggles do it in a second, but he actually needs to be careful because he's going to want to do the stand-up glitch, and he's going to be taking 4 times the amount of damage from like Rinkas and French fries and stuff as he would take if he had the gravity and various suits on. So if he wants to be able to do the stand-up glitch, he actually needs to have a clean Mother Brain here and not get hit.
So while he's doing Mother Brain 1 or Mother Brain 2 here, Zeb Skip with down back is same concept as Zeb Skip without. Basically, you're going into the hitbox of a frozen Rinka with a compressed hitbox and then standing up to extend your hitbox, which puts you inside the Zeb and allows you to just kind of walk through. Aiming down, since he has screw attack, by aiming down he doesn't have to pause, which is what allows him to save even a little bit more time there than just doing the standard Zeb skip.
Oh, he also just got the rare, like, she dropped a bomb, like, either right after she got hit with her last beam or right before it, and so he actually rolled towards that bomb and then bombed it himself because that would save time. Otherwise, she would not start this cutscene until a few seconds later to let that bomb explode. So that's a neat little piece of tech that you don't normally get to see.
So here we've got a fun trick called stand-up glitch. Normally, you're supposed to be immobile in this cutscene. You're just kind of crouched down and helpless to watch. But by having 700 energy, when you get hit by the rainbow beam, you're able to stand back up. And if you can get your health low enough, in this case, since he doesn't have various, he doesn't have to take any damage for it. But if you can get your health low enough, you can actually move around during this phase if you get it low enough before she fires the next rainbow beam, because that initiates the baby cutscene. And so now he's free to move and free to shoot Mother Brain, which is really important because Mother Brain right now is in her 3rd stage health pool. So all of the shots he's doing are actually damaging down her final phase, which is going to speed up the final phase of this fight by quite a bit. I believe a perfect stand-up is, what, 39 shots, and you have a 1-shot.
Giggles, I'm going to be completely honest with you and tell you that that's something that I don't know. All I know is shoot her till she dies.
Fair enough. Zeddy almost getting that John lock, it looked like. So we learned after John got locked with that you can break that lock by items to switch to something else, because that cancels out the shot.
All right, now we got an escape sequence here. Nice unmorph through the door there to avoid... Oh, unfortunately he missed the door transition there, but earlier he unmorphed during the door transition, which allowed him to avoid having to land on that platform and reset his fall speed. But yeah, we're going to get one final moonfall here in the game. This should be the last one right here. and then we should get a nice spark up the climb room for the last time before we get close to being done here.
Yeah, it's worth noting that missing this spark in this category is much worse than any other category because you don't have gravity suit and acid run, so now he has to climb up, and I just commentator cursed him, and I'm sorry, Zeni, please don't hate me.
Yeah, missing that spark. Here's the funny thing, okay? There is a good runner of this game who was set to have, like, I don't know, it was like an 8 or 10 minute PB in this category or something. He got to that room, missed the spark, and then forgot that he didn't have the gravity suit and died in the rising acid. So in RBO, it is not over until you're on the ship. But it looks like he's going to kill the animals, my man, coming through. And Zeni is going to finish. Did I say earlier between a 108 and a 109?
I think you did, yeah.
Almost on the money. A 108.26 in a marathon setting with deaths. A fantastic run. GG to Zeni. And thank you so much for displaying your skill for everybody to see.
Absolutely. And Zeni actually streams very regularly, so if you guys are interested in seeing more RBO or meme categories, he does a lot of memes too. Definitely check out ShinyZeni's channel, and he's also very helpful, so if you're new to the community or wanting to get started in the community, he's definitely a good person to ask questions because he's more than happy to lend a hand, even when he's bonking and all capsing in chat.
Yeah, Giggles, before we get done here, thank you so much, man, for joining me on commentary. It was really fun to get to talk with you, and you did a much better job of explaining things in detail than I did. I also want to give a big shout out to Feasel and everybody at SpeedGaming and everybody associated with SNES Super Stars. This is a super cool event. Appreciate you guys putting it on. Chat, hope you guys enjoyed it. Giggles, I'll let you have the final word, but everybody, we'll see you next mission.
You stole my last word, Kip. I was going to end with that. So I guess I will also say thank you guys all for coming out and supporting the marathon, and I too will see you next mission.